The restaurant's atmosphere was luxurious, with its soft lights and sophisticated decor, but I could hardly pay attention to it. My heart was racing, as if it wanted to jump out of my chest. It was a special night, and I had planned everything with such care for Jack. The menu I had chosen, the wine I ordered, everything seemed perfect. I leaned back in my chair, glancing at the clock once more. He was late. A small knot began to form in my stomach. Maybe he got caught in traffic, I thought, trying to convince myself that nothing was wrong. As I looked around at the tables, I recalled the happy moments we had shared. Jack always had that unique way of making me laugh, even in the simplest situations. I remembered when we went to that music festival last summer, dancing under the starry sky, not worrying about anything. He looked into my eyes and said I was the best part of his life. "Beatriz, you mean everything to me," he had whispered. I felt a warmth flood my chest at the memory of those words. The waiter approached, interrupting my thoughts. "Ma'am, anything else?" he asked, and I shook my head, requesting a glass of water. What I really needed was Jack. My phone vibrated on the table, but it was just a text from my friend Clara asking if I was already at the restaurant. I quickly replied, trying to disguise my anxiety. "Still waiting." "Jack is late," I wrote, and immediately regretted mentioning it. As time passed, my restlessness began to morph into suspicion. What could have happened? I knew he had a busy schedule, but something didn't feel right. I looked at my phone again, but decided it was time to turn it off. The last thing I wanted was to distract myself with social media while waiting for someone who should be there with me. The atmosphere of the restaurant, once welcoming, now felt oppressive. Every laugh and conversation around me served as a painful reminder of what was missing in my own life. My hands began to sweat as I tried to stay calm. "Beatriz, breathe," I whispered to myself. "He will arrive." Then, in a distracted movement, I looked out the window. What I saw made my heart stop. Jack was leaving a luxury hotel just a few blocks away, and the image that formed in my mind was like a punch to the gut. He was accompanied by a woman, elegantly dressed, her long hair cascading over her shoulders. They were laughing, as if sharing an intimate moment. My world collapsed in seconds. "No, it can't be," I whispered, feeling my breath falter. The scene burned into my mind, each detail searing like a brand. The woman turned to Jack, and he looked at her with a sparkle in his eyes that I had never seen before. The knot in my stomach transformed into a whirlwind of emotions. My heart raced, and anger began to rise within me. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor and drawing the curious gazes of some onlookers. My body seemed to be moving on its own, and I didn't know whether I was more furious or devastated. "Jack," I shouted, but the voice came out more like a whisper. He couldn't hear me, and the distance seemed to grow with each step I took. I decided I couldn't let this slide. Not like this. He had to know that I knew, that I had seen him. With watery eyes but a focused mind, I started walking towards the hotel. With each step, determination grew inside me, and the words I was about to say formed in my mind, ready to be launched like an arrow. It wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about us, about what he had made me feel. I needed to confront him, and this time I wouldn't back down. Anger and confusion consumed me as I waited at the hotel entrance. My heart beat in a frantic rhythm, and the adrenaline made me feel like I could explode at any moment. The luxurious environment around me seemed oblivious to the storm I was facing inside. Looking at the glass door, each time someone approached, my stomach churned. What would I say to Jack? How could he have betrayed my trust so blatantly? When I finally saw him, a wave of emotions hit me. Jack was exiting the hotel, a dazzling smile on his lips, as if nothing had happened. The woman beside him, with her perfectly styled hair and fitted dress, looked like a magazine model. The scene was unbearable. I couldn't hold back. As soon as he took a step in my direction, I crossed my arms and stared at him with an intensity that made him stop. "What were you doing here, Jack?" My voice came out firmer than I expected, but it was laced with an anger I couldn't hide. He stopped, surprised, and soon the smile faded from his face. "Beatriz? What are you doing here?" I could ask the same thing, I replied, my voice trembling, but not out of fear. I saw you leaving with that woman. What do you have to say about that? He looked away for a moment, as if searching for the right words, but I didn't want to hear excuses. That was a work commitment. She's an important client, he said, his voice hesitant. A client? I laughed, a bitter laugh that echoed in the cold night air. Don't make me laugh. Do you really think I'll believe that story? What were you doing in a hotel with a client? Jack took a deep breath and ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I knew well. It was his way of trying to compose himself in difficult situations. Beatriz, I interrupted, raising my voice. Don't come to me with those excuses. You told me you were working, and I saw you. I saw with my own eyes. He looked around, as if searching for an escape, but I was determined not to let him get away. You need to listen to me, please. He tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. Listen to what? That you are betraying the trust one placed in you? That I'm just an option while you're having fun? No, Jack. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with a tension that felt palpable. He finally looked at me, and there was something in his gaze that made me hesitate. I never wanted to hurt you. You know that. And yet here we are. Tears threatened to spill down my face, but I held them back. I thought you were different. I am different, he exclaimed, his voice rising in a mix of frustration and desperation. I made a mistake, but it's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. I shouted, feeling helpless overwhelm me. Why should I believe you? His expression shifted from desperation to a mix of anger and sadness. Because I still love you, Beatriz. These words cut like a knife. The love he claimed to feel seemed so distant from the truth I had before me. Love. This isn't love, Jack. Love is respect, loyalty. He fell silent, and I realized there was a void in his defense. I didn't want to hear any more of his empty promises. I needed answers, not excuses. I turned and started to walk away, but the need to understand what was happening pulled me back. Beatriz, wait. He called, his voice softer now. Can we talk? Talk? About what? About how you deceived me. I retorted, still not looking back. I don't know if I want to hear anything more. With a heavy heart and a confused mind, I continued on my way. As I walked, all the memories we had built together began to crumble in my mind, like a house of cards. I needed time to process all of this. What was he really hiding? Why hadn't I noticed it before? The questions echoed in my mind as I walked away from the hotel, determined to uncover the truth on my own.
The obsession started as a seed planted in my chest, germinating with each passing hour. The woman I saw with Jack wasn't just a stranger. Her name was Laura, and according to the information I managed to gather, she was an influential executive, known for her ability to close deals, and not just for being a pretty face. I didn't know what unsettled me more, the fact that Jack was with her or the possibility that he might actually be in love with her. The idea that I could be replaced by someone so successful made me feel small. I sat in front of my laptop, the screen illuminating my face in a dark room, as I searched for Laura on social media. Each click led me deeper into a labyrinth of insecurities. Her photos were from glamorous events, and her smile was always confident. What could Jack see in me if he had someone like her at his fingertips? I couldn't stop wondering if I was still enough for him. Beatriz, are you okay? Clara's voice pulled me from my daydream. She appeared in the doorway of my room, looking worried. You haven't been going out. What's going on? I'm just working on a few things, I replied, trying to hide the agitation consuming me. And you? How's your life? Clara approached and sat beside me. You know you can count on me, right? Whatever is going on, you don't have to face it alone.
I'm fine, Clara.
It's just that I saw Jack with another woman. My words came out as a whisper, but they carried the weight of the world. Clara was silent for a moment, her expression shifting from concern to indignation.
What?
He had the nerve to do that? You need to confront him. I don't know if I'm ready for that, I murmured, looking at the floor. What if he tells me it was just work? What if I'm just being paranoid? Beatriz, you can't let doubt consume you. You deserve to know the truth. Don't let anger take over. but don't ignore your instincts. Clara took my hand. Her touch was firm, yet comforting. I need to know more about this Laura. I can't stop thinking about her. The frustration in my voice was palpable. Maybe you should step back from this a bit, Beatriz. Going down an obsession path won't lead you anywhere good. I can't, Clara. I need to understand. It's like I'm in a game, and I can't afford to lose. If I don't find out the truth, I'll never be able to free myself from this. Clara sighed, her expression softening. Just be careful. Sometimes knowing too much can hurt more than help. As the days went by, my determination only increased. I wasn't willing to let doubt rule my life. I decided I needed to go to the business event where Jack and Laura would be, even if it meant exposing myself to an emotional confrontation. The idea made me nervous, but at the same time, there was a spark of courage within me. The night before the event, anxiety took hold of me. I found myself in front of the mirror, trying to choose the perfect outfit. If I'm going, I need to look amazing, I thought, as I tried on several combinations. Finally, I chose a dress that made me feel powerful, a dark shade that highlighted my eyes. When the night arrived, my heart raced. Are you really going to do this? Clara's voice echoed in my mind, but I couldn't give up. It was time to face the truth, no matter the cost. I arrived at the venue, the glamour and bright lights almost blinding me. I took a deep breath. You can do this, Beatriz, I whispered to myself. Whatever happened, I was ready to uncover the truth. The atmosphere of the business event was electrifying, a mix of laughter and animated conversations, but I could barely hear anything. My heart beat fast and hard, as if it wanted to escape my chest. With every smile Jack directed at Laura, I felt a stab of pain, and the tightness in my throat seemed unbearable. They were too close, sharing secrets that I knew didn't belong to my world. The sight of them together was a slap in the face, a brutal confirmation of everything I feared. Look how well they get along, I muttered to myself, trying to hold my composure. A waiter passed by, offering a drink. I grabbed a glass of water, not because I was thirsty, but to have something in my hands. Watching from afar, I saw Jack lean in to talk to Laura, and her melodious laugh echoed in my ears, like a song I didn't want to hear. Beatriz? A familiar voice brought me back to reality. It was Clara, my friend, approaching with a worried look. Are you okay? You look pale. I'm just a little tired, I replied, trying to disguise it. But Clara didn't seem convinced. You saw something, didn't you? That woman. Jack, and her, you need to step back from this, Beatriz. It's not worth it. I wanted to believe Clara was right, but the need to understand what was happening was greater than any warning. And suddenly, I couldn't hold back any longer. I looked at her and said, I need to know the truth, Clara. I can't close my eyes to this. But the truth can hurt, she said, her tone concerned. You don't know what you might find out. I know what I've already seen, I replied, my voice firm. And that's enough for me. With an impulse, I decided to approach Laura. What was I going to do? I wasn't sure. But what could be worse than living in doubt? As I walked, each step felt heavier. When I finally got close, she was alone, looking at her phone. I took a deep breath before speaking. Hi, Laura, right? My voice came out firmer than I expected. She lifted her eyes, surprised. Yes, it's me. And you are? Her expression changed rapidly, as if she were trying to piece things together. Beatriz. I'm Jack's girlfriend. The words came out as a whisper but weighed like a ton. Laura looked momentarily stunned, but soon regained her composure. Oh, you're Beatriz. Jack has spoken a lot about you. Her chin lifted slightly, as if she were defending herself. Really? And what did he say? I asked, feeling the rage boil inside me. That you have a wonderful relationship. That it's serious. He seems really in love. The way Laura said this, so casually, only made me angrier. How could she not know? How could Jack be so dishonest? He didn't mention that you're also a part of his life? I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. She frowned, looking genuinely confused. Me? No, I'm not a part of his life, beyond business. We just work together, that's it. confusion mixed with pain. So you don't know anything, you don't know he's with someone else? The question slipped out before I could hold it back. Someone else? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Laura's gaze was a mix of surprise and concern. Are you okay? Is this serious? I'm fine. I just need to know the truth. And with that, I turned away, feeling a whirlwind of emotions struggling to break free. The conversation with Laura hadn't brought the clarity I expected. Instead, it only deepened the uncertainty. When I finally found Jack again, he was in a corner, laughing with a group of colleagues. The contrast between their joy and the anguish I felt was almost unbearable.
Determination took over me.
I couldn't let him slip away again without a confrontation.
Jack.
I called, my voice coming out louder than I intended. He turned and, upon seeing me, the expression of joy was replaced by surprise. We need to talk. Sure, Beatriz. What's wrong? He seemed to have a forced smile, but there was no room for smiles between us anymore. I needed answers, and I was ready to demand the truth, no matter the cost. I didn't know exactly what I expected to find, but the determination to follow Jack consumed me. The idea that he might be with Laura again left me in a state of growing despair. That day, I hid behind a parked car, my heart racing as I watched the scene unfold before me. Jack appeared, with that carefree smile that always enchanted me, and soon Laura emerged, elegant and confident as always. The way he looked at her, the way she laughed at his jokes, it cut my heart. Damn it, Jack, I murmured to myself, feeling a mix of anger and pain. I was so close to the truth, but the reality unfolding before me was more than I could bear. Tears began to slide down my face, and I quickly wiped them away with the sleeve of my shirt. It wasn't time to weaken. I needed to be strong. I needed to know. What else could he be hiding? That's when I decided I could no longer stay there, just watching like a stranger. With a mix of courage and desperation, I followed the two of them to a nearby cafe. The small table in the corner provided a full view, and I hid behind a tall plant. The smell of fresh coffee and the murmur of conversations around me became a distant backdrop to what really mattered. You know I can't stay long, right? Laura said, leaning closer to Jack. Her tone was soft, almost seductive. I know, but I need more time. I can't just give up everything I've built with you, Jack replied, and the anguish in his voice made my stomach drop. And what about Beatriz? Don't you care about her? Laura asked, and I held my breath, tense, waiting for his answer. She doesn't need to know. It's just work, and I like her, but what we have is different. You understand that? Those words echoed in my mind, like a distant echo. Just work? How could he treat what we had as something so trivial? Anger began to boil inside me, and the need to confront him became urgent. After a few minutes, Jack and Laura got up and I followed them, keeping a safe distance. The city was bustling, and I lost myself in thoughts about how to deal with this. What would I say? How could I confront him without bursting into tears or screams? The streets became a blur as I walked, lost in a whirlwind of emotions. It was then that, in a moment of weakness, I decided to step into a bar I used to frequent with Lucas, my ex-boyfriend. He always knew how to make me laugh, and maybe a bit of his lightness could help clear my mind. The bar was relatively empty, and upon entering, I spotted Lucas sitting in a corner, flipping through a book. He looked up, and upon recognizing me, a smile lit up his face. Beatriz, long time no see. What are you doing here? He stood up and came over, enveloping me in a warm hug.
Lucas.
I need a shoulder to cry on, I confessed, feeling vulnerability take over me. Of course. Sit here and tell me all about it, he said, pulling a chair out for me. I told him about Jack, about the betrayal, about the pain I was feeling. Lucas listened attentively, and the empathy in his gaze made me feel a little lighter. He doesn't deserve you, Beatriz, Lucas said firmly. You're an amazing person. Don't let him define your worth. I know, but it's so hard. We built so much together. My voice faltered, and I felt on the verge of tears again. Sometimes, we need to lose something to find ourselves again, Lucas replied, and his words resonated within me. Those weren't just words of comfort. They were a call to action, a reminder that I deserved more. When I returned home that night, I still felt the pain, but there was also a spark of determination. I could no longer live in the shadow of Jack's lies. It was time to confront him once and for all. I had the evidence, and I wouldn't allow myself to be a passive spectator in my own life. It was time to take the reins of my destiny. I was sitting in my living room, my heart still pulsing with pain and anger. I looked out the window, watching the sun set, and the golden light seemed to mock my emotional state. It was a moment that should have been beautiful, but all I could feel was a deep emptiness. Jack had betrayed me, and even knowing it was the right decision, ending things with him still hurt like a blow. "You don't need him, Beatriz," I repeated to myself like a mantra. It was time for me to put myself first. I picked up my phone and decided it was time to put an end to it. I took a deep breath and called Jack. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the vulnerability consuming me. "Where are you?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. "At my house. Come now." The response was quick, and in less than half an hour, he was at my door. I watched him enter, and his expression was one of uncertainty. "Beatriz, he started, but I didn't want to hear any more excuses. "No, Jack. Enough. I don't want to hear your lies anymore. You betrayed me, and that's not something I can simply ignore." The anger I felt mingled with a sense of liberation. I can't continue in a relationship where trust has been destroyed. "But I love you," he exclaimed, trying to approach me. I stepped back. "You don't love me. You played with my feelings, and that is unacceptable. I'm not a pawn in your game, Jack." He looked lost, and for a moment, I felt sorry for him. But the pain I felt was greater than any compassion. "I'm breaking up with you. It's final." He fell silent, and his expression shifted between anger and pleading. "Please, Beatriz, give me a chance to explain." I shook my head, already decided. "There are no explanations that can fix this. You destroyed everything." With one last look, I sent him away, and as soon as the door closed, relief washed over me. I was free. In the following days, the pain was still present, but something inside me had changed. I was no longer the insecure Beatriz who accepted lies. I was strong, determined to move on. I was so immersed in this new phase that I didn't expect Laura to show up. She messaged me, asking to talk. "We need to clarify some things," the message said. I hesitated, but my instinct to uncover the truth spoke louder. "Okay, where and when?" I replied, and we arranged to meet at a cafe. When I arrived, I saw her sitting at the back table with a serious expression. "Hi, Beatriz," she said, and I nodded, still a bit suspicious. "Thank you for coming." Laura began to speak, and her words were like a revelation. "Jack deceived me just as much as he deceived you. He used me to get a promotion, and by the time I found out, it was too late." Each sentence echoed within me, and I knew I was hearing the truth. "He doesn't love either of us, Beatriz. He just likes the power he has over both of us." The anger I felt toward Jack was reignited, but now it was accompanied by a sense of solidarity. "We're in this together," I said, feeling a connection grow between us. "We need to expose him. He can't keep manipulating people like this." Laura agreed, and in that moment, an unexpected friendship began to form. Together, we decided it was time to end Jack's game. We made a plan to gather evidence and reveal his true nature. "He won't get away with it this time," I said, determined. As we joined forces, the weight of the pain we carried felt lighter. I had found an ally amid the chaos, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could start over. And so, with renewed courage, we prepared to confront Jack and put an end to this story of betrayal and manipulation. I was ready to turn the page and write a new chapter in my life, where I was the protagonist, free to be who I truly am.